So today on the podcast, I have my dear psychic teacher friend, Aimee. And Aimee's podcast blew up in season one. The first two episodes, people went nuts for. They're actually like the last two episodes of season one. So if you haven't listened to those, definitely go back and give them a listen. But I feel really excited to have Aimee back on the podcast today. Hi, Aimee.
Good morning. Thank
Good
you for having
morning.
me. So fun.
We're so excited. And really, we're going to go into, wherever we flow today, but we wanted to share that we've been working on something behind the scenes and it's a membership. And so when I first met Aimee, and I know a lot of you that are students or clients of Aimee, you get this feeling where you have a reading and for me anyways, I was like, I want more. You'll go on these little tangents. I'm like, okay, well, whatever that was, I need like an hour on the sentence you just said. And so that's what we created because there was such a demand for these conversations to have sort of this podcast format of flowing on specific topics. And then I think maybe what people don't know about Aimee is that you teach. So we have classes. We're actually learning how to read, how to become more psychic, how to manifest. And then these series of meditations, the technique is one of the most potent techniques of meditation I've ever done. And so we put it on a website that you can become a member to. And so we're kicking off with 6 podcasts, 4 classes, and 2 meditations, and then adding 2 monthly. So it's a really, really juicy offering. So by the time you hear this, it's live. So it'll be in the show notes and you can become a part of it. And I'm really proud of us, Aimee.
Thanks you, dude. Yeah. Through all the change and we just kept plugging away in the background. We've been working on this. Yeah. It's amazing.
Yeah. And learning, like we didn't really know how to do this. And we've come a long way. Aimee has a ring light now. Okay. She's got a computer.
Amazing. Yeah. I've jumped 100 years in 9 short months. Yeah.
And it's been cool for us. So it's been myself and George. We're learning a lot too. Like there were some days like I would come off of, these podcasts for the membership and be like in a growth period because like the information itself is so potent. Hopefully if you become a member, you might not do it. You might not watch them or learn as rapidly as we were. You might want to pace yourself with some of this information. But there were some days we would get off these calls and I'd be like, okay, wow, didn't know that. Now I know that. And I need some days to process. But we're really covering everything from love, dependency, money, guilt. We go deep into the chakra system. We go deep on so many topics and probably the topics that you get asked most, right?
I think probably that is what we've covered. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So this opportunity for us and probably easier on Aimee too, that we're not all calling her for the same question. Now we can go in and go, you know what? I'm going to sit with this money class or podcast and just take my notes and learn some things. And then maybe I'll move on to love in the next month. And so it's really like this beautiful training on life, I think is what we've created and allowed Aimee to like, how do you say it? Sometimes like you're kind of like getting all the information out of the queue, or is that how you would say it?
Or the channel, or sometimes I'm
Yeah.
like, just sit back. I'm going to flow at you for a second because it's just like we have a lot of stuff that's coming. We're gonna say a lot to you right now. So sit back and we're gonna flow at you, flow all up on you.
Yeah, and bring your notebook. Like I forget that I'm like the interviewer and not just the student. So I'll be in there like, oh, I got to write that down. It's like that's not my job right now. So I've gone back even and watched some of those episodes, and there's so much learning. It's so rich. It's so potent. So this is a way to have Aimee with you all the time because we are in this age of content, right? We're consuming so much. So why not consume the type of content that's actually going to evolve your consciousness? Is really what we're up to for this platform.
With any luck. I mean, that's certainly the goal or whatever.
So I wanted to start today for those of you maybe that don't know you or don't know, we also have a whole podcast on the membership site about what is psychic, and Aimee goes really deep in answering that question. So you can find out over there. But what are psychic readings good for? Because I think even when I say, oh, I asked my psychic, and people are like, oh, I'd like to do that, but I don't really know what I would ask. What type of readings are you doing? Because I know every psychic is different.
Yeah, really good question. Yeah. I mean, I think the baseline for me is if it's made, and this was my training. I mean, this is how I was taught, but if it's made of energy, you can read it. and everything's essentially made of energy because all we're doing is perceiving energy with our chakra system, essentially, instead of like our cognition or our assumptions or our belief systems. I'm just looking right at the object or the person or the situation as energy. And everything's made of energy. So essentially, everything can be read, whether it's like an inanimate object or I've noticed lately with the pet thing, I was just about to mention pets. I have actually pulled that off of my services because I kind of noticed that, I mean, it doesn't come up near as often. Maybe I've done 1,000 of them in the 18 or something years or whatever. Maybe, 500. I don't know. I noticed with and all my years of reading, just me personally, I could read anything, girlfriends, boyfriends, friends, I don't know, anybody, family members, whatever, except my own pets. I
Mm.
didn't grow up with pets. And so I really didn't have a reference point. But then, have dogs with my ex. They live out in the desert and I can't read them. Like when one went
Interesting.
missing, I had to just go out there and look because I was like, I can't. And it was a full on wall. So just a fun fact about me, I don't. And so I'm like, I'm going to probably pull back on pets because I really want that super neutral, sharp edge. And with pets, I'm like, I don't know if I have, especially when it comes to dogs. I just want to be a dog. I want to lay in a pile of dogs all the time. I wish all the humans were dogs. So I'm like, all right, I think maybe my neutral edge is not quite as sharp because I just never want anything to be wrong with them ever,
I
And
know.
I'm like, I'll take your weird pain, like, and I don't do
Yeah.
that with the humans, With the humans, I'm like, work
Yeah.
it out, you're fine, or whatever. I have a much more neutral edge, and it's not like I'm apathetic, but it's not my job to get involved in what the humans choose to do or not to do.
Right.
And I'm real okay with that and well practiced. I'm like, you do you, boo. I'll be here if you need me. But the animals, I can't quite drop it like that. I'm like, I want to solve this now. So,
No.
again, just speaking personally, my personal experience, that's kind of what I've been like, I'm pull back on the pets because it's hard,
Yeah, I know. Okay,
But
so
it's
don't call Aimee about pets, but we can call you about what? Everything else, all of our other
yeah,
human
yeah.
shit.
Well, and like some of the common things, obviously, love and money. That's what everybody's calling about. Like wondering if love is going to come. That's a big one right now. Cause, and we'll talk more about all this stuff, in past or coming podcasts and classes. But the relationship structure is changing. So everyone's got big questions about that. Obviously, money is changing. So there's big questions about that. And that's what people are most concerned about and afraid of and stuff, I think, generally. Another big topic is undiagnosed medical issues. So this I exercise a lot of caution with, not because, it's one of we don't have any issue reading that
Yeah.
historically. You
Yeah.
can just see where the block is or like, here's where it's at. Here's what it's saying to me. Here's what to do about it, generally speaking. Now, obviously, I have to put a disclaimer because I'm not a doctor. I'm not diagnosing shit. I don't know anything about anything. I don't know
Yeah.
body parts. Like, I don't know anything. I'm just saying this is what the energy's telling me.
Yeah.
And a lot of times it'll make sense to the client and they'll be like, oh, yeah, that is going on with me. And it's usually emotional. Sometimes it's physical. Sometimes people are eating the wrong food, stuff like that. So it's made of energy. It can be read. One other thing I'll say on this point is my particular style. I learned this once I was already in it. I don't know that I could have known this before I had several readings under my belt. Was I'm more like a core picture healer. Even my teacher kind of like diagnosed me at that or called me that. She was like, oh, at the time, this was years ago. She's like, oh yeah, you're a core picture reader. And it's true. So I'm very penetrative, gonna probably go past a lot of symptoms. I won't even probably pit stop to read any symptoms half the time. I'm like, where is the root of this?
Yeah.
That's what I'm looking for. And it wasn't really by choice. It's just my way, it turns out,
Yeah.
just to kind of speak freely, my eyes, even my actual physical eyes, do a very funny thing. So my prescription is something like a 5. I wear contacts. It's pretty nuts. I go to the doctor to get laser eye surgery a million years ago, and they said, oh, you're actually a 7, meaning I had much worse vision than I've been wearing contacts for all these years. So what my eyes do is they work really hard. My eye muscles even hyper focus. This is a true story. My eye muscles physically hyper focus to where they're making up a 2-point gap on that little scale of how they measure eyes. And they said, we don't know even where to adjust you for eye surgery. Like, we've never seen anybody's
Yeah.
eyes doing this. So just to kind of explain, like, I literally hyper focus, you know what I mean? And so just I'm that type of reader.
Yeah.
So I think it's relevant to know what you're looking for, like what do you want? That's a broad question. And even that is probably a whole class. But meaning, if you're going to go get like a reading or whatever, you kind of have to know what you're looking for. Are you ready for the full truth and nothing but the truth so you can get your shit worked out? Are we not ready yet? Which is totally fine. Knowing the difference makes a big difference in your healing
Yeah.
process.
Yeah.
So I think, do you want a fortune teller? Do you want to put a spell on your boyfriend? Do you want to heal long-standing patterns? Do you want to, create? Do you want to? So knowing a little bit about what you're looking for is super helpful because this is a healing. We're going to move energy on the call. You're going to be different by the time you're off the call, and you're going to have homework assignments to do. And if you do the homework assignments, it's essentially, I mean, this is a weird statement, but it's true. It's essentially guaranteed to work. If you do
Yeah.
your homework, you're going to get the result. This isn't a crapshoot here. It's a
Yeah.
matter of if you do your homework, you'll get the result that we tell you. If you don't, you won't. And
Yeah.
that's kind of what you can expect over here.
Yeah. Yeah. And one of your sort of like Amyisms is the work works, and it does, and I can attest to that. So, the world is crazy, and I'm sure you're getting a lot of calls. I know you're getting a lot of calls, but I'm sure there's moments where, people, something happens in the news and then things really pick up. But what are sort of the general themes people are calling you about in 2025, let's say, or over the past few months? If you can pinpoint, yes, I'm sure it's always sort of love and money, but, are people for me anyways, in the conversations I'm having, it's like, yes, all of that, but plus let's add war, let's add AI and technology, let's add, so is that what, am I covering it, or is there anything else that, in this moment in time people are really obsessed around
Well,
knowing
I
and
mean,
figuring out?
I'd be remiss to say that the number one by far topic, again, like I've already said, is women asking about this
Mm.
concept of the one or partnership
Wow.
by far.
Over all the other stuff?
By
Wow.
like there's not even a close second, not even a close second.
Really?
Yeah,
I'm surprised by
yeah,
that.
yeah, I know. I mean,
But that would have been me 10 years ago for sure.
well, and that's the thing too. And again, I've given you a lot of topics we'll cover in the future, and the structure of relationship will be one of them. Okay, so
Yeah.
everybody take a deep breath. We're gonna cover it. I got a lot of info for you, and a lot's been up since 2020. Like a lot's changed. So
Yeah.
that is overwhelmingly the number one topic. And in fact, I think it might just be the crew that we kind of roll with, but not very much politics at all. It's
Interesting. Mm. Mhm. Yeah, here we go. Yeah.
that day, like people like, can you talk now by any chance? I just got right up in the bed and started doing calls. I was like, oh yeah, call me, call me, call me. So but after that, it kind of has faded out. I feel like the crew we roll in, I don't know, this might be an overstatement and certainly probably an assumption, but it's as if they know better than to get too involved in all of
Mm.
it. And that's not, I don't know, maybe a statement for me. I'm just saying, it's less than I would have thought. Let's just say that. Some people have asked. Immigration's a big one though. We work with a lot of Canadians, and the nature of the internet means we have people all over. So
Yeah.
like people all over the world, not just US. So the immigration piece has been tricky because people want to, I don't read the future. That's a trap, right? But people are
Mhm.
like, is it going to be okay? Like, am I going to get deported? What should I do about my
Yeah.
visa? Do I
Yeah.
allot this chunk of money to do this? Do I get an attorney? Do I stuff like that, which is pretty, I don't read the future, but you want to give these people the information that they need to set themselves up for success. So
Yeah.
that has been, I would say, calm.
Interesting.
Mm.
I just like, yeah. And I can think of myself when I was single, like, okay, yeah, the world's on fire, but like, am I going to get a boyfriend? Like, it's funny to me, but I know that that was me at a certain point in my life. And what is that? It's just when you're, what is that? It's just our desire to be in relationship, to be known, to be loved. Like when you look at the core picture of women calling you about a relationship, what is their desire if you really look underneath it?
I don't think that I think that they don't know first.
Yeah.
We're just adopting an idea that we were given. That's the
Yeah.
off the jump, right? And I'm not going to take
Mm.
anybody's desire for partnership away from them by saying that. I'll tell a funny little story, which is 100% true, that when I was little, right? Like same thing, like you have this idea in your head, right? And there was like this like picture of like a groom and like a bride. And then I didn't realize till years later, I wasn't the bride. It was like a blonde chick. This is literally a true story
Yeah.
where I just had this. I must have saw it in a magazine or on a billboard or something, right? And it just always like I have this picture in my head, and like I don't know when I realized it. Probably when I started meditating or something like that. I was like, it's not me in the picture. It's the blonde chick. I mean, I'm all okay. So I think that's where it has to start, is we have to
Yeah.
start being like, you guys, we were told so much stuff, and we never, the marriage and babies and family structure thing just doesn't really get challenged by the average person, or
No.
historically. I think
Yeah.
increasingly so. And people
Yes.
are realizing like maybe it needs some tweaks and some updates, just like
Yeah.
everything does for modern times and how people actually are going to be able to relate these days. So I think it is a challenging subject to get women to get a little wiggle room around.
Hmm.
It's like they're locked in, like, I want this. And it's like, okay, yeah, but we need to adjust our desires, our wants, our perceptions of all of that to the modern day evolution of the human race.
Right. Right. And what does it sort of call for right now, I guess, like in terms of the modern day relationship? Like you said, even since 2020, those dynamics have shifted. How have they shifted even in the last 5 years?
All right, well, we'll get into it. I mean,
Yeah.
because I'll just kind of tell you what I witnessed. And again,
Yeah.
I'm like, I get maybe like, say I do 3 to 6 calls per day, basically 6 days a week. Say on
Yeah.
that's a pretty regular schedule for me, like for a million years. That's just
Yeah.
been like, so for context, So I'm just saying I have a lot of input from a lot of people, and they're all showing me their skid mark underwear. They're all like, so this is what's really going on inside my relationship, which also a
Yeah.
lot of people don't have access to. And social media, I don't think probably depicts that at all. I'm not on it. You guys know that. I don't know, but I imagine people are like, and then all the other people are like, I want to be like them. And then I'm like, no, you don't. Trust me. They don't even want to be like them. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
with that said, I keep everybody's shit secret. And also, if I did my job right that day, I forget everything we talked about. That's
Yeah.
always the goal. I do not want to carry information around. It hurts. So just so
Yeah.
everybody knows, I do not give a fuck. I do not judge, and I do not remember if I've done it right. So 2020, and I don't know if it was like, I mean, I'm sure it's pandemic related. I think all things are connected and all things are on purpose, and everything is very meaningful for what that's
Mhm.
worth. So here goes 2020. We all got driven back towards each other, and we had to like actually relate in these little tight quarters. And so, I think a lot of people know the breakup started pretty promptly, the disintegration of well, back it up. It was like the scaffolding or the structure that the heterosexual relationships are built on, once people started having to stand on them again and rely on them again, it was like, oh, this fucker's rusty and lacking maintenance. Like we've just all been at work ignoring each other or doing
Yeah.
our secret things like to and from work or lying to each other and not having to like get caught. So all of a sudden now where everybody's at home being like, where am I going to do my leaving, or where am I gonna, or how do I get a break from this person that I'm in a relationship with, but that I'm super annoyed with or super resentful of or whatever, right? So
Yeah.
it was more like once they had to rely on the structure of the relationship again, it wasn't stable at all, couldn't hold the weight of the relationship, and it came kind of crashing down. Like
Yeah.
as far as, and maybe people aren't calling me whose relationships are working. So I'll say that is like, people aren't calling me being like, I feel great, everything's working well, I have no
Yeah.
questions or problems. So I'm just speaking to the people that are calling.
Yeah.
It's probably
Of course.
intrinsically that they have problems is why they call. So I
Yeah.
don't know if intrinsic is the right word, implied, I don't know. So you could see 2020, 2021, it all starting to crumble down, and then it was like 22, 23 was kind of like crickets. Everybody was super desperate and clamoring to get back into some codependent relationship and avoid themselves at all fucking costs, right?
Yeah.
Especially because the society structure had changed at that point. It's like nobody, like, if you've been at home and working in your sweatpants, you don't want to go do that again. You don't want to go like drive in traffic and like, if just just to do the same thing in some other building. So we were displaced in more than one way. More than one of the memorized, adopted, accepted systems were not the same. So 22, like, and people, it just kind of seemed like the guys were like, no, you're not getting relationships. You're going to deal with your little self and your little long-standing addictions and your fucking unconsciousness, or you're going to suffer real bad. So it's up to you. And this is not on me, dude. I'm a human in the same situation. All the same shit happened to me. I had to learn all the same shit too. So then, like, you could start to see, and a lot of the information in 22, 23 was like, hey, you guys, this relationship structure is not working. I know you're desperate and you feel incomplete without it, and you have no self-esteem without one. Because if you're a woman, society says you have to have a man or you do not have a value. I mean, I didn't know that. So one of my clients told me, I was like, that's nuts. So true. So, it was like they just wouldn't. They said, you guys have to rebuild a relationship structure that works for people. We need to update this fucking thing and we need to evolve it, right? And we need to have a meaningful conversation with each other. And you need to get whole first. None of this bringing your fractured ass, low self-esteem self to a relationship and then putting the burden of fixing that and filling those gaps in on the other person. Which was like the typical 100% standard. It's like, I'm broken from my childhood or my society or my fucking shitty belief systems. And he's going to make me feel better about it. And I'm going to be pissed at him if he doesn't, and vice versa. Usually it is girls to boys who do that, for what it's worth, and the gender roles, all that stuff, gay relationships, all that stuff is really, we're just doing a sort of a touch on all this, but really it is worth diving into. So just to say that 24, 25, we started to see the structure get rebuilt. Certainly 25, where I'm like, oh, there's actual like new posts going in the ground. They've poured some concrete. I'm like, okay, we're getting a shape here. And to speak to that shape, just generally, just again, a high level, we're going from codependent, to autonomous. We're going from, unequal, imbalanced to equal and balanced. So if I had to pick maybe like 2-3 words to say, that seems to be the transition. And so then each individual has to evolve themselves to the new way. You women have to become autonomous, make your own money, even if there's a millionaire on the other side of this relationship. Keep yourself autonomous, and then it doesn't put all this false shit in the relationship. Like, I'm only staying because of the money or the kids or whatever. Get your own happiness, find out what makes you actually happy, and let that be a goal. Joy needs to be a full-on, full-time conversation in a long-term relationship. Just putting that shit on the back burner, especially, for women and moms. No, that needs to be in the forefront, how we're feeling, our emotional, personal responsibility, and really working to keep your frequency high, and then having each individual have that be the agreement. Not like, you forgot my birthday, I'm mad at you for not doing this, you didn't do that, you should have just known that I wanted you to do the dishes, or whatever the old stupid shit is that we've heard a million fucking times, right? All that's got to go in the fucking trash. It's all got to go. And we have to say, I'm a human. I am personally responsible for my thoughts, my words, my actions in totality, 100% of the time, despite my fucking history, despite what's happening in society. I have choice. Consciousness equals choice. If you're self-aware, you can choose your thoughts, you can choose your words, and you can choose your actions. And that is what makes a relationship, is what you contribute to it. So if each person woke up today and said, I'm going to contribute not only to my main partnership or my good friends or society at large, I'm going to contribute the best I possibly can today through my thoughts, through my words, through my actions. And not every day is going to be a 10. But if we wake up and say, I'll do the best I fucking can today, that's all we can ask out of anybody. And that makes for much healthier, more happy relationships, which we desperately need. The average relationship is not happy and is not healthy, and it is not honest. So I'm sure there's exceptions out there. I know that to be the case, but I think that a healthy relationship is the exception at this point.
I agree. And I loved that timeline, because as you were saying, and I was like, yeah, that was like, Bill and I were there at that point. And 2022 is like, real turning point. 2023, I felt like I walked like on my hands and knees through coals, trying to be, autonomous, sovereign woman within relationship. Like we say all this stuff, and then it's like, when you talk about the homework piece, it's like I did that homework for myself. And then, I watched my husband also transform without me. And I still do this at some moments. So let's be clear, without me trying to control him or be so codependent, I don't think we would be able to do what we're doing right now in terms of our business or our endeavor if we didn't go through how, and it was like kind of excruciating
Mhm.
within that year. I mean, I don't know if you remember, but it was hard.
Yeah, I
I
remember.
was calling a lot and trying to figure it out. But what I love what you said, and this is always sort of a motivator for me in terms of change work, is like, if we don't have that many examples of it, it's like, okay, well, how can we within our own relationship rebuild this structure? And I look around, at a lot of relationships and I'm just like, whoa, okay, yeah, we like came up and out of that and we fall back in. It's not to say that it's perfect by any means, but I'm like, oh, there is a new blueprint here that we are creating
Mhm.
because of the work that we've both done with you. And it started with me forcing Bill to call Aimee for what it's worth. I'm sure there's lots of women going, oh, my husband should call Aimee. And I don't think I recommend that. It's hard on Aimee because they don't want to be there until he can figure it out. If he wants to call Aimee or not. But I think that I sort of see, like you said, like some more stakes in the ground, different foundation that was different than what I saw from my own mom and dad or my own family or society. But it's shaky because it's new.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's new. And I mean, the information wasn't quite available. I think what
Yeah.
happens, like with the channel, is that the information comes in at the time that people can start to integrate it, right?
Yeah.
That's why I always say about the guides or the collective consciousness, or, I just call it the guides. It's just easier. But it's
Yeah.
like, it or they or God or whatever the fuck you call it always fucking knows, man. I'm always just
Yeah.
like, so amazed because there's just no way like I could know. I don't know. It's just so I'm always just like, wow, man, the channel knows and it knows what we can hear and when we can hear it.
Yeah.
And while I do tend to get you guys to your ceiling every fucking session is the goal. Like we don't
Yeah.
leave, like we try and wring your ass out or get you right to your ceiling every time.
Yeah.
Right. That's at least like you know but with that said, certain information just wasn't available because people weren't ready to do it. Now they've suffered long enough, right? They've been suffering. We're all suffering through since 2020 in a lot of ways. And so that's kind of, I don't know if it's all humans or if it's just like affluent North Americans. I only speak to what I know and I haven't traveled around, so I don't know. But it's like we have to suffer a lot before we'll change. I mean, we got to get desperate before we'll change. I don't know what
Yeah.
that's about, but that is very true about at least Americans, is that the suffering capacity is real tall, and with regard to relationships. So anybody that's suffered and had a really hard couple of years, as far as I'm hearing, and as far as me being a human, it's been tough, man. We've had to really alchemize ourselves. The old bullshit ain't coming forward. And so we had to, go through the death process of letting go of a lot of these old habits. One of the visuals or maybe metaphors we use a lot, and I really love it, especially speaking to kind of like y'all's endeavor and just, trying to co
Mhm.
create with a partner or
Mhm.
whatever, large and small scales, just trying to co create a household or co create kids or co create some like your dreams.
Yeah.
The metaphor, the visual that the guides gave, and I really love, is like railroad tracks, right?
Yeah.
Like a train on tracks. You're your side of the partnership, and I know there's multiple like people with multiple partners and all that. So I'm not trying to leave that out. I'm just doing a little metaphor here. But like, say you're one side of the track and you attend to your side of the track. You always make sure, like I said, your shit's tight, your shit's, on point, your mind is clean and clear. Like you're doing your work to stay happy and healthy and balanced, right? That's your side of the track. You keep your shit maintained so that that train can keep moving forward unencumbered, right?
Yeah.
Then instead of minding your partner's business or vice versa, right? We kind of agree on the front end. These conversations we're gonna wind up start having them before we dive into some deep
Yeah.
end of some shit we did not invent. Like we just adopted it. We didn't invent it, right?
Yeah.
So we'll have these conversations first. And that has been happening. Myself and some of the people that are kind of here already, it's like have this conversation first. And it is blowing minds here, just being like, cool, I have an attraction, loving something here. This is cute and cool. Let's talk first, about some of these things. So it's been working really well for what it's worth. So here we
Mm.
are maintaining our individual sides of the track instead of And it's funny, I don't know if it was you or somebody else said, like, yeah, I would go on his side of the track and try and repair some of his side of the track, and like set up.
100%.
Right? I think that's kind of the, like,
Yeah.
lady thing to the dude thing. I don't know. I think that might
Yeah.
be pretty typical. So it's like, what if we just maintain our own side of the track? Then that train can keep moving. That's
Mhm.
autonomy, right? And codependent, alternatively, we call it fusion. Like in the psychic technique, we were taught it's called fusion. And the reason is that you merge emotional bodies and energies to where
Yeah.
you get that thing when you live with somebody, or you sleep in the same bed, or you're always with somebody, or always thinking about the other person, or where you get that thing where you fuse energies with them and you no longer even have your own, not only like autonomous identity system, but you don't have your own autonomous energy. So here you are running his emotions, he's running your emotions. And
Yeah.
that's why like sexual attraction fades. That's why resentment builds, because we just lose ourselves just
Yeah.
by simply being around somebody all the fucking time, or sleeping, like I said, in the same bed. You're going to absorb and mix those energies. And then the train has a much more challenging time moving forward when those fucking tracks are fused. And that is what tends to happen. The train just stays right there. The
Yeah.
train or the creation, whatever it might be, stays right where the lowest common denominator of the couple is. So here we go, matching on, like, maybe I have like, anger at my, I don't know, middle school teacher. Oh, and like, well, he, has anger at his like coach or whatever. I'm just making some shit up, just talking about how the match, that we have a match, if we're knowing somebody, there's something there that's similar, that point of attraction. So then that's what happens, is if we don't deal with our shit, right? Our pain, our fear, if we're not honest about our pain and our fear, basically our
Mm.
fear, basically your fear, dudes, you're afraid. It's okay to admit it. Can we just deal with it finally? Chicks, you're over emotional. Can we calm the fuck down? So, right, if we just talk about it, right, and like deal, then we don't get hung up and stuck. And isn't that the case with so many relationships? This is what I
Yeah.
see over and over again, is that they're holding each other back, like almost as a rule. You barely even have to look at it. From space, you can see you're both holding each other back in the way that you're doing this. Now, I'm not saying don't have relationship. Of course, what we're saying is, and I love love. I'm a real love lover. I'm like, I'm in love. I mean, if I can muster it, I love it. It's cute. I like it. We're ain't getting these days back. I love being in a bubbly little lovey mood. Shit is cute. I like it. I'm into it. But not in an unhealthy way, because getting
Yeah.
into those fuckers is a lot easier than getting out of them. Getting in is
Mhm.
so cute. Getting out might take a bitch down. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Or
Yeah.
leave you with so many scars that you build up walls around your heart going forward. And then you increasingly become unavailable to love, because you've operated on that codependent system that is
Mhm.
not functional and doesn't feel good really for anybody. You might think it
Yeah.
feels good until you're free of it. And then you're like, wow,
Mm.
that didn't feel good. So just to speak a little bit to it.
Yeah. No, and I think it's so important, especially for people who are wanting to get into relationships or single. I wish I had this information, earlier on. Now I'm sort of repairing within relationship, which also is possible. Like now that we have the information, we're like, oh, okay, cool. Let's like do better and like just get on our own little railroad track. And wow, okay, now it's so much easier. There's way less conflict or way less insecurity or whatever. It's like it's amazing. But so it can be done. I just think it's like, wow, if you're single and listening to this, it's like really take this to heart, you guys, because holy shit, I'm sure there's so many people calling you not just, oh, I want relationship, but oh, fuck, I'm in relationship, or I've been married for however many years and I feel unvalidated and I feel this and I feel that, but there's kids and there's a mortgage and, you go so far down the line and you feel stuck. And then what?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And I've been in some versions. I mean, I'm a human. I've all that, and
Yeah.
that's why it's like, prevention is the best medicine, is some
Yeah.
shit like that, right? Is that,
Yeah.
yeah, it's like, yeah, for sure. But also, who cares? I mean, this is what life is. Get your ass banged up. Who cares? Go get your ass
Yeah.
hurt, because then you'll be tougher for it. But that is what we need to do. And another thing I'll say, since we've gone here,
Yeah.
another important, I think, dynamic that has really gotten exposed recently. I literally almost cheered out loud in the reading when this came in. I was like, oh, amazing information. Because again, I'm just a witness. I'm just sitting
Yeah.
here and I don't know what information is going to come in. And when I'm not working, I'm not walking around thinking about this stuff. The
Yeah.
opposite. I am not a very inquisitive person. I am physical. I just like to do my gardening or do my yoga or whatever. I'm not asking questions for what it's worth. When this information came in, I was like, fucking A, like we needed it. And which is big drum roll, big buildup here, is the relationship between, I got to get it right. It's kind of gnarly, you guys, or I felt a little nervous saying it out loud. I was like, oh, they're going to be weird and mad about that. So insecurity and narcissism and the dance, the dynamic between those two dynamics, right? So again, generally speaking, and mind my gender generalizations, but like, right, we've talked before about how women are programmed to insecurity and incapability in our society, like hate yourself, you're not good enough, you're not pretty enough, and you're nothing without a man, and also you can't do it. So right, we know that. And then we talked about how men are programmed to, obligation and righteous. And I always have to add the caveat here that it's not that they all think they're right, which sometimes it does come across that way. I think there's a whole name called, or word called, mansplaining, right? But it's that they're burdened from our society that they have to be right, that they're not allowed to be wrong. They're supposed to know where to go and not find directions and all this stupid shit, right? So you have to start there to understand the insecurity and the narcissism and how that plays out, right? Because narcissism really is just like this overinflated idea of oneself, right? And I'm not trying to define narcissism, that's a huge conversation, but saying that insecure women breed and hook up with narcissistic men. So, or vice versa. It's not always that way. It's just
Right.
typically that way, right?
Right. Right.
And so that insecurity and narcissism, chicken and the egg. And again, not to
Mm-hmm.
go too deep into it now, but it was kind of like, why did they make women insecure? Like even they talked about putting them up on high heels, like it's like so they can't run away and all these different. So I won't go too deep into that, but it's like it started, or it creates this cycle of just like insecure women create narcissistic children, and then narcissistic men, enforce the insecure women whole dynamic,
Yeah.
and so that
Yeah.
seems to be worth deeper exploration and
Big
kind of
time.
seeing how that's playing out in individual relationships. And
Yeah.
it's probably a piece that needs to go if we want to kind of break through as a human race at this time.
Absolutely. And I think that would you say women call you more than men in general?
By far, yeah,
Yeah.
I would say
So
maybe 5% are men.
yeah. So I think that it's like our job, as women to figure this piece out, and that we will change the structure of relationships based off of the work that we do with ourselves and our own insecurity and, who we are. And I think I'm starting to see that a little bit, like you said, it's kind of in the water a little bit as these relationship structures start. But I think the opposite of that is kind of wanting to blame men and men are narcissists and men are this and men are that. But it's like really understanding what our role in that is.
Mhm.
And and I was just thinking in my own life, in my own examples, I had to play that out. And I've talked about this before, maybe on the podcast or probably behind the paywall, the membership. We really go there and share lots of things. But, I had to play that out one more time with my job with an old boss, like it was like, okay, I figured it out kind of within relationship. Bill is not a narcissist, but I certainly had a narcissistic father and dated many narcissistic men, but I needed to just like play it out one more time and that big insecurity one more time to like really learn it and understand it. And I think it was the first time where I stopped blaming men. I was like, okay, well, what's my role in this? How did I create this? How am I allowing this to affect me? And it was kind of a fun, painful, challenging, interesting, exciting way to do that because it wasn't in a romantic partnership. So it was a little easier. There
Yeah,
was less on the table, but there was money on the table and power and other things.
yeah.
But I was grateful to have like another opportunity to like figure that piece out.
Yeah, it's really worth commenting on that or responding to that because it's a tricky line here because women kind of, again, I'm speaking generally, you guys, but women take a lot of blame in our society. They take a lot of heat, kind of like, and it's funny because I've hung out with a lot of men. I mean, like everybody knows when I was up in Julian, just sitting there at the Legion with these guys, like I've hung out with a lot of men. and we talk, so I'm not a man hater. I like socializing with men. It's easier on my system. Chicks talk too much. So quite frankly, when I'm not professionally working, I'll tend towards, and my longest friend is, are men. So just for reference, so it's a fine line because women take all the heat. I mean, even some of these men I've hung out with, I'm like, well, you know how you guys hate women. And they didn't even balk. They were like, yeah, no doubt. Yeah. Fucking bitches, so it's really contentious out there right now, just average. And we were having a great time. They weren't mad at me. We just knew it as a fact and it was fine, so I really caution women, like, blame has to just be released altogether. Blame and victimization go together. So if you want to be a victim baby, well, you're going to suffer, and that's at nobody's hand. It does not matter how you were raised. It does not matter. If you choose to perpetuate your own martyrdom or your own victimhood, cry me a river, you're going to suffer, and it's at your own choice, right? So blame is a part of that whole cycle. So the whole thing has to get pushed out the window, right? It's a matter of personal responsibility and holding each ourselves and the partnership accountable for personal responsibility. Saying, hey, my thoughts, my words, my actions. Fucking period. I'm responsible for my thoughts, my words, and my actions. I'm responsible for my fucking feelings. Because that's where my feelings come from, is from my thoughts, my words, my actions. Sure, do we have stuff from our childhood? Yeah, fucking A, man. I've really burned through a lot of scary shit. So I'm not going to take that away from nobody. I'm going to say you can't stay stuck there, and you can't keep using your story and your history as an excuse for your fucking behavior today. Today is a new day. Right now is a new moment, and you have choice, right? So I know we keep saying that, but that's what it boils back down to ultimately. Getting rid of insecurity and getting rid of the narcissism and that cycle. I think the tool is personal responsibility and not blame, because society is already blaming women and blaming moms for every fucking thing. That's just a fact. So when women add that on too, it really compounds the problem. And oftentimes the dynamic is when women go, well, I'm just going to take the blame for it. I'll just try and do the work. I'll go see the healer. I'll take the steps because I know he won't. And that is extremely fucking common, right? I'm not speaking against men. I'm just saying that's the choice. And in my experience, men don't tend to listen to women. Men tend to listen to men. They just don't believe women are typically, historically. I know things are changing. So I just wanted to respond that, yes, take personal responsibility. Yes, call yourself to the carpet. Yes, fucking clean up your thoughts, clean up your thoughts, clean up your thoughts, clean up your thoughts. Bottom line, but find that line where only take responsibility for your thoughts, words, and actions. Everybody else's is their business. You know what I mean? And that fine line is really required.
Yeah. And then I just think of like what is possible when we're able to do that. I think like, wow, I'm reflecting on how much energy specifically for women go and for all genders, but into relationship. What are they thinking and what are they like? Oh, and it's like once we clean that up, it's like then the work, then it's like, okay, now what do you want to create? And we've talked about this before. It's like, in the podcast and definitely in within the membership, it's like, okay, once you get a hold of the fear and the guilt and the 6 no-go words and really do a lot of this work, then you can get into creation, and then life feels really exciting. And often I'm sure you can't get there with a lot of people because everyone wants to go, but yeah, but then he said this, and then my mom said this, and it's like we're just stuck in that cycle. So I'm just curious, like, how often are you even in session able to create with people? Because we're so like holding so tight to our stories and
Yeah,
our
so
beliefs.
holding so tight to the story. And God, if anybody if it's available to anybody today, and you just want to just pretend you're like Goldie Hawn on Overboard, or I think they redid it. I didn't see the new one. I love that classic, right? Just forget who the fuck you are. Forget your story, man. Like if it's available to you, just like let's not fight about it. Just do it. If it's not, we
Yeah.
can talk about, But yeah, I mean, I guess we go relationship today, deep down into it, but have to, it's so powerful right now. Just tell the story you want it to be true. It's like, how are you today? I'm fucking fantastic. And I'll go back, like this is a weird little like jump, but I remember there's this one of my bosses named Lisa. I think I was 20, maybe like that far ago. And that's what I learned that from her. She just said every day, no matter what, she said fantastic. And I knew that lady wasn't fantastic a lot of the time, but she did not give in, man, to anything lower than that. And that stuck with me my whole life. I'm like, I'm fantastic. And you guys hear me every time. I was like, how are you? I'm like, I'm doing great. And most of the time it's 100% true. And the days it's not, well, it becomes true because I just won't let my attitude slip, And so it's like, I just like, there's so much to talk about when it comes to these roles. This is such a huge topic. And so I will say that Look, just let me just say this, that as we dive down into each individual relationship, yes, creation becomes possible. Like we do
Mm.
have to get people to level ground at first, right? And that is
Yeah.
the bulk of the work. And it is a lot of work right now. It's a
Yes.
lot. That's why even I was like wanting or willing to do this. This is scary for me. I'm not comfortable doing podcasts. I've never done this stuff that much before, but it was just like we can't just keep charging people and taking up the first half hour to say the same friggin' thing over and over that everybody's experiencing. It's like, so yeah, we do have to sort of fill in a hole and get everybody back to level ground. We got to get you from the codependent. We got to get you out of, these stuck dynamics and these things that are making us suffer. And then we finally can start to use our energy to create instead of
Yeah.
to defend or compartmentalize or even just being offended. Like challenge everybody one day, try and not be offended by any fucking thing, right? And see how it's like the amount of energy that has to go towards holding offendedness is major. It's like you might as well just walk to the toilet every hour and throw $100 down the toilet and just flush it down because you're really wasting so much energy. You have to remember to be mad at that person. You might not realize it. You got to like hold that. You got to like put it somewhere. And like, you're like, wait, I am pissed. Yeah, I'm offended again. You have to start the whole cycle over like maybe 1,000 times a day unconsciously. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Because
Hmm.
life is balance. Life is peace. Life is healthy. We're the ones that interrupt life with our own little giant belief systems and our own righteousness or whatever. So yes, we got to get everybody to level ground. And no, it is not possible because a lot of people love their fucking pain. They love their gossip. They love their pain. And that's fine too. Just admit it and stay there. The
Yeah.
guides say, hey, if you're gonna the guides really say, I'll just be candid. They say, don't even start this work. Fucking don't even start this work.
Mhm.
Don't bother. Walk away. Turn it off now. Walk the fuck away. But if you do start, you better follow through because you get
Yeah.
stuck halfway in, you're going to be fucked because then you're going to know too much and all your little defense mechanisms and all your little compartmentalizations are going to be blown apart. And you're just going to be all there raw and uncomfortable and scared and lost and shit. So if you're going to start to get to know
Yeah.
yourself, you better be prepared to follow all the fucking way through is my best advice for you. Or just stay ignorant, man. Ignorance is bliss. Just stay dumb. If I ever had the luxury of being dumb, I might have chose that. I don't know. I was just always this weird ass way ever since I was little. So we are what we are. But to be candid, it's going to be some hard work and there's not a lot of mercy about it. The guides aren't like, I know. The guides are like, well, did you want to go forward or not?
Yeah.
Energy's neutral. We're the ones that's all like add all this meaning to all of it. Life doesn't give a shit, dude. Life is going to perpetuate with or without us. And so we either personally evolve at this time or you're probably going to suffer a lot and probably lose a lot. Not like threatening, I don't care, but I'm just saying it seems to be where we're at as a human race.
Yeah, and I'm curious. I love what you said because I have definitely been in that kind of middle point where you're like, oh, now I know too much. I want to go back to what I didn't know, but I can't, and so I have to keep moving forward, and that it could be a really painful place to be in. So thank you for saying that because that was like validating. Definitely been there and seen that hell where you're like, okay, well, have no choice. But I'm curious about the human race at this time because it's seemingly, and I don't know, because I only remember this one lifetime for the most part that we're in, is pretty intense. And I sort of been asking this question, and I've had lots of really interesting guests on the podcast this season around like, is the human race like, are we going to make it? Did we choose this? Like, did we say, yeah, cool, I'm going to volunteer, I'm going to come back to Earth school? Like, is this planet ghetto? Like, what are we doing here? Is AI taking over? Are we becoming robots? Like, I think even in the last year, these are new questions. Like, I don't think even last year I was thinking that. I was like, yeah, you just, gonna build a little dream life and everything is really cute. And now I'm like, oh my God.
Okay, are we going to have a planet to exist on? Yeah.
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 Yeah. Or are we going to destroy ourselves? Yeah.
Yeah.
Candidly, and I've been watching this sort of teeter totter probably most of my adult life. I mean, there was
Yeah.
something in me even when I was little where I remember being like 6 and being like, oh, I don't have to go to college because like the planets where I don't know, that's not going to be required for the planet if there even is a human race. So
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
know. I think a lot of people in our generation sort of have that, or maybe all humans have the fear of the doomsday, like that
Yeah.
might be intrinsic to humanity. But
Yeah.
certainly we are witnessing, the bringing down of a structure, I guess I would call it Not an opinion, but an observation based
Yeah.
on the sheer number of people that it just seems like what the types of things we've talked about today are kind of required, you know?
Mm.
The human spirit seems extremely resilient. I mean, you can run half the time a freight train into that motherfucker, and the humans find a way, man.
Yeah.
We're resilient. And I dig that about the human spirit. But if we don't realize that we're all one, I'm not sure that we'll pull through. I don't really just know how it's possible. And for what it's worth, you guys, there's obviously controlling forces, and we can talk about that again, a different time. But, the only way that we're controlled is through our mind.
Yeah.
If you have free thought or freedom of thought, then you kind of can choose for yourself. For what it's worth, it seems like that's I don't know if it's the rich people you guys believe are in charge or whoever. I don't know, right? The top 1%, the politicians, I don't know, whoever we think is in charge, aliens. I think there's a argument for, higher level beings
Yeah.
kind of fighting over this slave race that is humans. So it just seems like they're like, hey, each individual is getting called to the carpet to clean your shit up and to
Yeah.
rejoin the tribe, man. Like, we're
Mhm.
all so separate. And going back to like partnership, look at people are not able to connect or hook up. And also going back to like what a reading is for, half the time people are like, God, I just want to talk to somebody about some of this stuff because there's just no one around for me to talk to about this type of stuff. Gemma, my ex-wife, would always be like, she'd be like, okay, can I get a reading? And she wouldn't ask about herself. She'd ask about like ancient Sumerians or like
Yeah.
what's under the pyramid, or I can't remember, but she would like, have, which for fun, we could do that too, you guys, if you want to do that.
Yeah.
It just seems to be that where we've had so much segregation. We're so separate, and people are so scared and lonely. I mean, most people are so lonely as the average right now. This isn't the exception, it's the average. Even within relationships, the
Yeah.
relationship's quality is so low that they feel even lonelier sometimes within partnership. So
Yeah.
we have to realize that we're a tribal people. We're a community based sort of animal, like we're a community kind of animal, right? And so we need to drop our little walls. We need to heal our little hearts, and we need to get off the fucking computer and get back belly to belly. That's what they used to teach in real estate. I don't know if it's only a real estate term, but that's what they would teach is how to become a good real estate agent is you got to get in the flesh with people. Everybody you
Mhm.
meet is somebody important. Everybody you meet has a gift for you and you have something for them. And that's a fucking fact, man. Everybody has a gem and everybody has a gift. And if we'll just look at each other instead of through our grievances, instead of through our offendedness and instead of through our righteousness, if we just say, hey, every single person is a gift, they have something for me. Let me look at it with the lack of lens, not even through that lens, the absence of a fucking lens, and just say, oh,
Yeah.
well, they're in my experience. So there must be something meaningful here. Let me see the God in them, the God in me, that whatever the fucking thing that's making your heart beat, I don't know, but something is. That energy is coming from somewhere. And if we can't tap back into source, this batch of humans probably won't make it. Last
Yeah.
thing I'll say is there seems to be that they've done this, in the Matrix where the architect goes, oh, I've destroyed you guys like 6 times or something like that. I'm not sure if that's a verbatim quote, but I was just saying, whenever I first saw that movie a million years ago, that's what my little brain thought. I was like, this is what it's like. I was just
Yeah.
made sense to me. So it's like, maybe we get destroyed and maybe we don't. Either
Yeah.
way, it's not that big of a fucking deal. You'll just go back to dust and you'll just be remade into something else somewhere else. But if you want to save your kids and your planet and your body, well, then we might need to make some changes that eliminate the destruction in our own life. Our mind is very destructive, our behavior is very destructive, and so we're destroying. There's a time and place for destruction. There's also a tipping point when maybe we get back to create a new world, create a new blueprint. That seems to be what the call is these days, is like,
Mhm.
we're in a new world, we're in a new time, we're in a new situation here. Let's start creating in a new way.
Yeah. I know we're sort of at time, but I feel like I really want to ask this question. When it comes to AI and technology, it's interesting because I think maybe even with ChatGPT, it was like, oh, yeah, ask ChatGPT to write an email for you or a strategy for your business. But the way it's being used right now is people using it as therapy or people using it as a friend. And I think it's super
Oh, wow.
interesting. Or someone told me anecdotally that she's a therapist and her therapist friend did like a relationship counseling session for a woman and her AI boyfriend.
Mm-hmm.
Like, me and my boyfriend are, need our counseling session, which like blew my mind and made me really sad. But I think it's interesting the way humans, it's like this piece of technology, we're trying to actually use it relationally,
Mm-hmm.
or like trying to use it to feel something, which I don't know if the technology thought it was going to be that. But now it's like, are we going to end up in even, it's a slippery slope even for me. I'm like, hey,
Mm-hmm.
chat. Like, I'm like, whoa, okay, that was scary. Like, what am I doing
Mm-hmm.
here? What do I really need?
Yeah, that's really interesting. And as a person who I've never been, I don't even know where to get Chat GPT. I just figured out it was chat, not Chad. This whole time I thought it was Chad GPT. I did not know what the fuck. So just for what it's worth, I am like, I
I
don't know.
love that.
I'm like, yeah,
Chat GBT. I love
I
it.
was like, oh, I don't know. Of course, they named it after a dude. I don't know. That's what my stupid brain thought. I don't know, right? So, just for reference, I legitimately do not know this shit, and that's why I get informed by you guys. I'm all, whoa, is that what's going on? Like, I heard one example about a dude having an AI girlfriend. I don't know where I
Yeah.
heard that. I was like,
Yeah.
oh, well, I guess that makes sense, right? And it makes sense to me. I'm sure there's dynamics to the evolution of AI, and AI probably is a whole hour, honestly,
Yeah.
especially after my session with George yesterday. Man,
I
he
know.
we channeled some crazy, some good stuff. I was like,
This
whoa,
is the stuff that's going in the membership. This is the behind the paywall stuff that, yeah, with like we go really deep. But yeah, I'm curious just as the Cole's notes of
yeah.
AI
Yeah,
with
I know. We
Chad.
like broke a sweat yesterday. I was like, whoa, this information coming in. So it's a lot. But yeah, so with that all said, they're fucking people are fucking lonely, man. Like the computers
Yeah.
and the phones. You guys, do this one thing. Again, let's just take one day or 1 hour if you can and just go somewhere in public and just don't be on your phone. Just stand in line at
Mhm.
Starbucks and just breathe. Stand the
Yeah.
fuck in line and just breathe. Just count your breath, make eye contact with people, take your goddamn headphones out, right? I get it. I'm so introverted, you guys. Like, I am like extroverted for this, but as a human, sometimes I will be afraid to leave my house because I'm like, oh my God, there's going to be like big, crazy trucks driving way faster than my speed. Like, I've been like at an ashram all morning. And then everyone's like, oh, and like driving their kids to soccer practice. Like, I get it. It's like it's scary. But so I'm just saying it'd be so easy to just block everybody out and just like ignore everybody and stay in my little
Yeah.
psycho introverted little shy bubble, which I would be more comfortable doing here when it's
Yeah.
work. I never, all my whole life, ever since I was young, because I have my first apartment, I lived alone when I was like a teenager, like young. And so I went to the movies by myself. I went out and ate by myself. You can't just stay in your apartment 24 hours a day, other than work. So I'm just saying the value of just being able to have your own company. That's really
Mhm.
what we need to do. Like, because if you don't
Yeah.
even want to fucking hang out with you, then who the fuck else wants to hang out with you? If you don't
Yeah.
want to be in your own, if you're not comfortable in your own body, how the fuck else somebody else can be comfortable in your body? You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So that really, we need to get real about our
Yeah.
thoughts that create our frequency, and that the biggest thing people totally want, I do believe, based on what they're telling me and based on being a human myself, is togetherness.
Yeah.
We need the community. We want to fucking hang out again. We want to be able to meet people again outside of an app, outside of a screen, right?
Yeah.
And that's getting so sketchy because now who even knows who's on the other side of that? Like, it might be actually AI. If it's not AI, you're probably getting catfished or scammed. I mean, can we get
Totally.
off the screens? Like, I know people are starting to figure it out, and I know that they're addicted, but I just don't see that if we're committed to being lonely, unhappy, and unhealthy, fine, great. And if
Mhm.
that's what we're committing to, fine by me. I mean, I'd do
Yeah.
my own fucking thing today.
Yeah.
So I support whatever anybody else chooses, but let's not delude ourselves. Let's not bullshit ourselves. Like, stay on your screens, you're gonna fucking hate yourself. And the
Yeah.
frequency that is coming out of those things, I can feel it. My phone, like, I leave YouTube on in the other room. I can feel the frequency penetrating through. And you know what it makes me do? It makes me want to consume when that frequency is just running.
Yeah.
Because, see, I know my frequency really well. I spend a lot of time in trance. I spend a lot of time in silence and meditation and alone with myself, a massive
Yeah.
amount of time
Yeah.
in my adult life. So you can tell the difference. So just realize we got to get back belly to belly, you guys, and you got to get through your fear of being judged. You got to drop this concept that you're too anxious, clean your
Mm.
thoughts up, which makes your body a more hospitable place to be. Get in your fucking body, stay in your body, make eye contact, shake
Yeah.
hands, say hello to the people, and drop your offendedness, or decide right now to be fucking miserable. It's six of
Yeah.
one, half dozen of the other. As far as God is concerned, as far as every other fucking human is concerned, you're the only
Mhm.
one that has to live in your body. I'm the
Mm.
only person that has to fall asleep with Aimee, in Aimee's thoughts, inside of Aimee's reality, I'm the only bitch that has to wake up in this body. So
Yeah.
we need to really clean it up. And it starts with the thoughts, it starts with the belief systems.
Mm.
This is another conversation, but I'll say quickly, drop your fucking belief system. We don't need to be right or wrong about all this stuff. And you don't
Yeah.
need to apply meaning to this. I don't need to have
Yeah.
opinions about everything. Just have the experience, stay present in your body with all your friggin' might, be grateful for the interactions, and then go home and fucking review it. Go home and integrate it. Go home and learn about it, and then do it again the next day. Let's just decide that we're not going to be an offended piece of shit, because nobody wakes up today and says, man, I'm going to go do all my productive, cute things today. I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to eat my little smoothie. I'm going to be cute and drink my water. I'm going to get my projects done, whatever. I hope somebody's a fucking cunt to me along the way. Man, I
Yeah.
sure hope somebody is rude to me in traffic. Oof. Hopefully the bank teller's super bitchy and impatient. Nobody fucking needs attitude today, and nobody needs your attitude, man. Like,
Yeah.
we're all trying to keep our head above water. We're all in this together. I saw this cute, I won't go on and on, but I saw this really cute little, like, I don't know, printout at a bagel shop in Hillcrest, right? And this was like dead in the, like right in the middle of the pandemic. And it goes like, we're not all in the same boat. Some of us have dinghies, some of us have
Mhm.
yachts, right? I'm sure this is some meme out there or whatever, gift. She just had it printed out and it stuck with me. I was like, oh, nice way to say it. She goes, but we're all in the same storm, or this printout said
Mhm.
that. Like, we're not all in the same boat. Some bitches got a lot, some bitches got a little, and everything in between. Some of us are suffering a lot more, and some of us are suffering a lot less. But we
Yeah.
are all in the same storm. And
Yeah.
that I dug. And we are. We're all one, you
Mhm.
guys. We are all
Mhm.
fully connected. Your heart is beating, my heart is beating. That is the same fucking source.
Yeah.
So you want to separate yourself from somebody, fine. Then you are a part of the problem that you're so upset
Yeah.
about. And that's
Mm.
where I'll conclude, is that that's the largest thing, is if you don't like the fight, you don't like the oppression, you got to come out of the fight and you got to stop being oppressive. And that's at the thought level. So I don't care what side you think you're on politically, gay or straight, boy or girl, whatever. If you can't come out of your narcissistic, egoic belief system thinking, I'm the most important thing and my thoughts actually are me, yeah, it's not going to be a very quality or fun experience anyway. And we are sure coming face to face with that right now. All our little comforts are getting weird.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
Maybe they're going to start taking some of them away, or
Mhm.
who knows? And that is when at least affluent societies finally start to change, is when their little comforts start getting impeded on. Seems like we might be there.
Yeah, I agree. So good. Thank you. Needed to hear that. I'm sure many of us did. Yeah, it's like, every time we talk, it's like, okay, we go deeper into this subject, deeper into this. It's like, but I like where this flow went today, because I think those two things around, it's all about relationship, how you relate to yourself, how you relate to others, how you relate to the world, and then how you relate to technology that's changing so rapidly. And yeah, just it all comes back. Everything we've ever done or ever said always comes back to the present moment, the now, and how we relate to the now. And what's cool is like this conversation, I know, because the last two podcasts that we did last year like sparked so much for people. And now it's cool that we like have a way, not other than just calling Aimee, which you absolutely can do. But now we have this whole place where you can land and like watch these videos. And what we didn't touch on a little bit is like Aimee's actually teaching classes. So I think last week we recorded meeting your own guide, meeting your own sort of master healer. Like when Aimee talks about the guides, I think that was one of my questions. I was like, who are the guides? And I was like, oh, okay, like there's a whole class where you can meet your own guide. There's a whole class where you can read your own rose, which is like your own energy or other people's. So there's like some real psychic training happening also in this platform, which I'm getting such a kick out of. I'm absolutely loving.
It's really fun. And for those who don't have like a specific interest in developing psychically or clairvoyantly, it's still highly relevant, because it's about, I didn't even start out to be a professional. I started out to lower my anxiety because I had started a real estate company and I was
Right.
stressed out and scared. I think
Right.
one of my main motivations for first actually going in for a session was, I was like, oh man, what have I done? I put my ass on the line. So the tools, it doesn't really matter how you use them or what your goal is.
Yeah.
They're just extremely useful if
Yeah.
you're in a human body.
Totally. Totally. Yeah. So it's like that kind of taking this work into like the real practical, and having a deeper understanding of how those tools work. And then with the meditations, it's like, we need to be meditating. Well, if you want.
Oh yeah, no,
Highly
all
recommend.
you need to fucking meditate or don't fucking bother anybody. Like, you know
Yeah.
what I mean? If you're not willing to calm your mind down at least like once a month, or if you're at least like, if you can't take a deep breath every once in a while, you know, yeah. And
Yeah.
I'm the first one, like, you know, just to be silly, and I'll shut up after this, but it's like those anxious ladies without a grounding cord who have never meditated one day in their life. I mean, you can smell them from across the room.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
like, nope, stay away. You keep that spiky, sparkly, crazy, like it feels like it's like an ungrounded like electricity cord where I'm like, don't get it on me, dude. Like I'm chill.
Totally.
I don't want your like crazy ass energy over here. So for what it's worth, man, it's off-putting when you're running anxiety in your body. And
Big
even
time.
though, you know, it's the new norm, it's not the norm. This is just the accepted sickness, but that's not appropriate. And you don't have to just suffer with that guilty,
Yeah.
anxious feeling in your stomach all the fucking time. So I know
Totally.
what you feel. I got you. And you
Yeah.
don't have to live that way if you don't want. And it's hard as fuck and a lot easier than you think. You just need to know what tools to do. You need to know what to fucking do. And it makes
Yeah.
all the difference. That's what
Yes.
readings are for, is like, all right, you get an individualized, concentrated focus. I put my Dumbo ears on. I listen to every word everybody says that calls. I'm 100% focused on just them for
Yeah.
that time, which is
Yeah.
so rare. So when you get that specialized, focused, present attention, and we go, here's what you specifically need to do at this specific time, you guys, it makes absolutely all the difference. Trying to
Totally.
guess what the fuck to do, trying to guess what your deal is, trying to guess how to fix it. I don't know how
Mhm.
anybody's expected to do that.
Yeah.
No, it's too
Yeah.
much. So you get a homework assignment, you do your homework assignment, you're going to make
Yeah.
some quick progress. Not that quick
Totally.
is the goal, but that is what will happen. It's going to be painful. It's going to be uncomfortable. You're not going to
Yeah.
want to do half of it, but you're going to feel so good when you do, just like going to the gym. It's the spiritual gym.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. And the meditation piece is so big. Like I remember our first session, you're like, do you meditate? And I was like, yeah, for 5 minutes and kind of just sit there and think the whole time. So what I love about the meditations that we have, and I think there's 6 already in there and we're going to continue to add, but they're really dynamic. And so it's not like you're not sitting there and they're bored. You got shit, you got a grounding cord, you got to feel the cosmic energy, you got to blend it up in the chakras. Like you're in there doing work. And so I
Yeah.
think even for Bill, like someone who wasn't as interested in meditation, when he first did your meditation, it was like, oh, like he's a visual guy, he's an artist, like it made so much sense. And so there's there's shorter ones, there's longer ones, there's channeled ones for different people, and so you can get in there and like find something that really works. And then we have conversations like this where we go a lot deeper, like we're calling them podcasts, but they're specific to the membership, where it's just that one topic and we just let Aimee's channel just go and run wild. And so it's fun, like there's a lot in there in terms of tools, meditation, and then just like letting the channel unload on us as humans. And so it's super valuable. So yeah, like I said, it'll be in the show notes if those are interested. But it's so nice to, every time we get to sit down and have these conversations, I am always learning something new, that is for sure. But I just thank you, Aimee, for your gift and your willingness to share it. And I know it's scary for you too. We often forget that Aimee is a human being as well, and that it's a big deal to be online like this and share.
Yeah. I feel okay today, but yeah, generally
Yeah.
speaking, I'm not comfortable doing any of this. But I love Allie, I love George, and I love all of you. And yeah, so I appreciate the opportunity. You guys are really gracious. Everybody who is listening, I appreciate every single one of you making this possible. I will say that if people didn't want new information, if people didn't want to heal, if people didn't want consciousness, I'd be dead in the water. I'd have no fucking purpose. And so for what it's worth, we're all doing this dance together. You give me freedom. Hopefully we can create freedom as a reciprocal and in return. And as the new standard, you could just be free, man, and just kind of be somewhat happy and content most of the time. It's totally possible.
Yeah.
It's a little bit of painful work. Fuck it. But we'll hold hands. We'll do it together.
Yeah.
Last thing I'll say is just remember the network. I've been 100% referral based for a long time, or I think mostly, whatever. And so it's created a really interesting sort of like web or network.
Yeah.
Right? Like where one refers. The lines are long, even to the point where sometimes somebody will, like 3 people that they know will refer. And that's not really about me. That's about that there's a network out there that where we're doing this together. There is a huge connection. And I talk about that a lot. Some of my clients, I know that some of my more affluent clients, like I know for sure, we've talked about it. If another client needed help, I could call one of my clients and say, can you just help this person you don't even know just because I'm asking you to? 100%. I could call you, Allie, and be like, hey, can you help this person? They need help. And you guys
Absolutely.
wouldn't hesitate, just like I wouldn't. So there is a network out there. You don't have to just, you're not an island. You don't have to do all this alone. We fucking hold hands. We don't let go until you're ready to like leave the nest yourself. And then you just circle back when you're ready to create, or you circle back when something comes up, or you gotta, you know, but at
Yeah.
first it's a bit of hard work and we stick together getting through it. And that's just kind of where we are at as humans
Mm-hmm.
and as women
Mm-hmm.
right now. So we're here
Yeah,
for you, everybody. Me and Allie and Georgia, at least
absolutely.
I can speak for.
Absolutely. Cool. Thanks, Aimee.
Thank you guys. Love you.